he also said, did you see this? That RH may not even with this whole thing, RH may not need to use the ETH treasury to pump anything. He could leave it on the bridge and provide pDAI liquidity. You want in bridge, you want out bridge. So
yeah, that's another thing. Like how many, and that goes to what we've been saying for a long time, is how long have we been saying that everybody that is, maniacally tracking the that $3,900 ETH buy and the sacrifice funds and stuff like that, $170,000 ETH or 170,000 ETH, that may not be all the capital that's available to the ecosystem. And yeah, I think that's just the start of it. Not only that, but like some people were even talking about the idea that buy at 3,900 followed up by some tweets that we also saw from RH around that time may have been purposeful about like buying tops and things like that. There's been a lot of clues, and I know some people are like, you're a dumbass, you're reading into too much and things like that. But I mean, it's not like the guy's out here streaming every day like he used to or anything. And it's, and it's not like he doesn't have, corrupt SEC thorn in his side that isn't, so, I mean, you got to look for other ways to communicate as well. And I've always kind of, compared that guy's tweets to deciphering like Pink Floyd lyrics and stuff. And it's fun to do, frankly. So,
well, and then, and then somebody, I forget who it was, Coffee, mentioned on one of his latest streams that he was, it was with Corey this morning, about how Richard can be very, there's a video of him saying, stop speculating on stuff unless I say it, but it's just so confusing, I guess, but some of these things you don't want to say, you can't say what you're doing, because again, he's got that thorn in his side, where if he did tell people what was really up, that could be considered manipulation, right? So he's in a tough spot at this point. I think when he said that back then, he was still streaming. There was no case going on. He was always very careful with what he said, but just how he said that whole, don't read into birthdays and think this or that is going to happen on this day. And I think that's what that whole point was about. He told people to go use their time wisely. So, you just get a lot of mixed messaging. And until the founder speaks with 100% truth or falseness, I guess all we can do is speculate. So I'm going to be on the side of, hey, if it goes up, it goes up. If it doesn't, it's not going to hurt me. So
there's no real reason to hate on any of it, because everybody's bags pump infinitely harder.
Yeah.
If it's what's going on, you don't even have to have access. Now that we are knowing what we know, or have seen what we've seen here, it's not even so much about buying pDAI or believing in pDAI or whether it doesn't matter what you think or what you believe.
Sure,
something's going to happen one way or the other, and if you're a part of the ecosystem, you're going to go as the ecosystem goes. So, at this point, it's the whole thing about buying pDAI isn't even really part of it anymore. But I'm curious, like, what do you think are some of the things that we could see if all of this begins to line up and we see it being true? I mean, we could be seeing, like, again, the eDAI, pDAI yield farms. We could see PRC20 and ERC20. Like, what if not a lot, but some of these PRC20s, for whatever, communities want to, like, start to actually get to parity with their ERC20 counterparts, like something that we haven't talked about for a year. Everybody kind of gave up on world's largest airdrop. People quit talking about it. All the PRC20s like tanked and nobody gave a shit anymore. What are the chances of some of those actually reaching parity? You can come over and provide the liquidity for them. And then on the back end of that, because you had some thoughts on it that I found interesting the other day, is the chances of PWBTC, like that, actually matching the BTC price eventually, which would actually indicate like a really good, even with how much it's run up, but potentially really good buying opportunity with PWBTC on PulseChain. But you've talked about like it having admin keys and the security of it and stuff like that. But what do you think like those yield farms and stuff could look like? Because it seems like it's just this like three-pronged attack of like, you establish pDAI, people start there's incentive to want to earn incentive token by providing liquidity. Incentive token goes up. Everything goes up. This is why I keep saying like a DeFi crypto utopia, like everything literally right here. Like, hey, even Bitcoin is over here. Literally, come over here and get better yield on your Bitcoin than you could anywhere else in the
Yeah.
world. I mean,
Well,
you know,
hey, the that's the one problem, right? Is the with the pulse wrapped Bitcoin is the admin keys. So when you do try to unwrap it, actually, I wanted to address this first.
okay.
If it does peg, a lot of this shit can go into effect a lot sooner.
Hmm.
The contract can go live, the arbitrage bots can take over, and maybe they're not ready yet. Maybe that's why um, I don't think there's really a front run. I think what you need to do is you need to get it to $1. That's the first step before anything else in the plan, or close to it, to where arbitrage bots can kind of take over. The maker contract can go live, where people can actually mint, loan, collateralize, things like that to mint more. So it's possible that it's not ready yet. I don't know that it would really hurt to front run it. So I don't see how it's a bad thing unless you're not ready to do what you want to do. So that was just my thoughts when I saw that comment. So, but
What are
go
your
ahead.
thoughts on PWBTC? Because
Well,
you've talked about that, yeah.
yeah. So there is counterparty risk, right? In order to wrap Bitcoin into Ethereum, there are admin keys where I forget what it is. Ren.btc was one of the sites where you could wrap to get over to Ethereum. And then you're copying, uh, basically you're copying a copy. So you're
Mhm.
copying a wrapped version, which, is, it just adds a whole nother layer of counterparty risk. Um,
Mhm.
it, it's a great story, and it's one of those stories to, maybe when Richard first put those pools out there, or whoever, the OA put the pools out there to bond liquidity, like Pepe. I think Pepe was one of the ones that was there for a very, very short time,
Mhm.
to get people to try and bridge their real stuff over. Maybe when that backfired, or just didn't go as planned, people didn't seem to care about those free copies. Um, I think it's going to be a different story in the bull run. I think
Mhm.
when it launched, it wasn't the right timing for that type of thing. Things were still going down in price. People didn't want to take a chance. Probably wanted to exit a lot. So they may now have a free copy and no longer have that Ethereum side, because
Right.
they could have gotten rid of it, or sold. So I think it could entice people to kind of come over at a lower price, kind of get these things evened out. There was a BTC farm early on as well, so that was one of the things that was in there, along with Pepe, and there was a couple others, and I really don't remember. I just remember Pepe being there.
Yeah.
Um, I think it was kind of an experiment, or here's what could happen later down the road, type of thing. So, I just caution you to not think that you're going to be able to take your Pulse wrapped Bitcoin, bridge it over into Ethereum, and then unwrap it on the BTC, on the main, obviously on that chain. So
Right.
I just want people to understand that they have to. There's too many contracts involved to do that. So you would just end up with e I don't even know how you would do it. It'd
What it
be
would actually be. Yeah.
EWPBTC would be, it'd be a weird wrapped version of a wrapped version. So you're almost
Right.
wrapping it three times to get it. So just keep in mind, you're not going to be able to cash it in for real BTC if you want to do that. Now you could sell the value, bridge
Mhm.
that value over, and then buy it if you wanted to. But again, there is counterparty risk when it comes to wrapping and unwrapping Bitcoin. So just keep that in mind. But it's a good story, man. These are all great stories, right? It's Richard knows how to market. He knows how to get people's attention. He knows how, he's been talking about having things up his sleeve for a long time. This could be part of it. you know,
Mm-hmm.
and rather than just launch a Bitcoin that's got or launch a stable coin that has a bunch of collateral behind it and just have it pegged, you know, he's always talked about making millionaires. So
Mm-hmm.
he wants to create a new whale generation is what he really wants to do. And I think that's how he gets his glory, by creating a ton of people that are very, very wealthy so that they can do good with their money. So, yeah.
To that point, something that I think Decentralized Me has been saying, how many times has RH gone on and on and on about not only, you know, wanting the glory and wanting to create this kind of blockchain and things like that, but also um, help to enrich folks who have the
Yeah.
same values that he does,
Yeah.
you know. And if you've got all these people, I mean, clearly, if you bought Hex back in the day, if you bought PulseChain and PulseX and stuff and have been here since the launch and are diamond handing it still, you're not going anywhere. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, you obviously believe in these principles. It's more than just, I mean, obviously you want the gains, but it's also the principles and the values. And you wouldn't go through this kind of shit if not for
Yeah.
that. Like, he purposefully wants people to be shaken out to be able to take up the winners with him at the end, you know.
Yeah.
And if this whole thing pans out and we get that DeFi utopia on PulseChain, I mean, I don't even know what to say. It literally like leaves you speechless what this thing could look like by the end of it. I
Sure.
mean,
And you bring up a good point, because so you got to picture this. Okay, all these people get in Hex early, end up with a lot of value. Well, what happened? Sacrifice. A
right.
lot of that captured a lot of value that didn't get sold. Um, and then the second sacrifice for Pulse X, another capture of a lot of value that didn't get sold. And that was just the first cycle. So what is it this cycle? How do you, you almost have to create ways to keep value in the system, reward people well for believing in what you're doing. And
Mhm.
I think that is a exemplary of what he's done. So, you know, it's pretty cool that, you know, you're rewarding people for believing in what you're doing by keeping value in the system at the same time. So, you know, I think there almost has to be, you know, people have speculated on, well, there may be a wallet sacrifice the next time. Well,
Mhm.
I don't know that that's on the top of his priority list. I think he wants to build a better ecosystem. And there are plenty of tools out there, Internet Money, Rabby. There's plenty of tools. MetaMask still works. Although I hear a lot of people complain about it.
Yeah.
You know, but again, there's sufficient tools out there to do what needs to be done to where the wallet doesn't really come into play this time. I have a feeling it will be stablecoin, right? How can you benefit people? And that's to give them a place to get into stablecoins where you don't have to sell. So yeah,
Right.
I think oi oi red squirrel. So I think that's something that needs to be thought about this cycle, is how do we allow people to enrich themselves at the same time keeping value inside the system. Yeah.
And um and oh, to your point about like sacrificing for a wallet, I think people are over the sacrifices too, you know, because a lot of people took after the Pulse Chain
Till it
sacrifice
happens.
and yeah, yeah, and did their own sacrifices, like for, you know, liquid loans, and everybody's like very upset about different sacrifices and things like that. So,
Well, so I mean, those people generated a lot of money and then they didn't
right.
see any return. They expected something. And then that's problem with the sacrifice, where when you expect something in return,
Mhm.
um, you know, and you don't get anything, and the price is shit for it, well, you get a bunch of upset people. But you
Plus,
know,
they probably sent in too much. I mean, that was a problem you and I never had because we never felt like we sent in too much for any sacrifices, you know? So,
well, yeah, sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, we here's the thing, because people talk about like, well, you know, by the time pDAI gets to $1, like it's all over or whatever. There will still be people when this pans out buying pDAI, as in getting the dollars of it to do the yield farms. I think that the yield farms will be so
Yeah.
insane by that point, and as far as like the APY they could be paying, how high the ink price is at that time, there will
Mhm.
still be people wanting to get pDAI at that price. So,
Yeah. Even at 85 cents, once it gets
Yeah,
to, if it happens to get to 85, 90 cents, there are people that have a lot of money that will take 10 cents on every dollar. Happily. They'll do it over and over and over again. So
right.
yeah, I mean, at 1 cent, it's probably risky for a multi-millionaire to go in and buy some, but at 90 cents, I I think it's probably in their best interest.
Yeah,
They'll take a free 10 cents on the dollar every day of the week.
right. I do have one final thing on this point because we were talking about the PWBTC, and you made great points about like the counterparty risk and if you would bridge any of that back over to Ethereum, what you could be encountering. However, that doesn't really stop people, obviously, from buying and speculating on the price of it while it's on PulseChain, and you can
Oh,
still sell the token eventually on PulseChain. Because
right.
if you're, pDAI has been a speculative stable coin. Now the gains are the whole way down to, you're 65x away to $1. But with PWBTC, we don't know where Bitcoin is going this cycle. There are many, Richard Hart included, kind of, that sound like they think it could go into the $240,000 range. And if you believe that, now PWBTC's run up quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. And luckily, I had those bags packed already too. But you're still 150x away from that price at this moment if Bitcoin would get to 250K this cycle. So there's still room to go there. You don't know where it's going to go. Obviously, it's highly speculative, but if you could see it get to where the BTC price is, there's still double the opportunity potentially with PWBTC than there is with pDAI right now. So there's that out there too. So
yeah, I didn't pack any bags of that. I'll be honest with you. I didn't. I didn't. Didn't
yeah,
buy any of the PWBTC.
I don't think many did. I think it was probably more of an afterthought. I grabbed some at $80 and then a little bit more, I think, at 290 here right before it took off recently. So we'll see. I mean, even honestly, even if people are still aping in right now, I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do, but I still
Right.
think that that could be a very good opportunity as well. But
Yeah.
at this point, again, you just have to make that argument with yourself because eventually it's like, okay, if these vehicles are, I think, going to be used to pump the core ecosystem, do I think that those tokens still have enough room up that they would surpass where the core tokens are going to go? And in pDAI's case, I'm not really willing to take that risk any longer. I mean, I don't really think that it could outdo what the rest of the ecosystem is going to do at this point. So,
Sure.
yeah, but
Good
man,
stuff.
I mean, you can get lost in this stuff really easy, and it just there's more out there now than there ever has been. But either way, it's a super bullish time. So,